Whether you're a brand new author or an experienced author, there's one thing you all need to be really, really good at, and we're going to be talking about it today. We're going to show you the sales. Welcome, everybody. This is Books Cafe, sponsored by free-ebooks.net. I'm Scott Paton, your host. We've got an amazing guest on for you today. But before we do that, I just want to take a moment and tell you about free-ebooks.com. Our purpose is to support authors. And if you've got books and nobody's reading them, we have hundreds of thousands of visitors every week. We have millions of people on our email list. We send out a lot of emails telling people, you know, if they've downloaded romance books, we send them all our best romance books for them to download. Everything is free. As you can see here, we have tons and tons of categories, something for everybody. We also have audiobooks. And I was just looking at this, and we have, which one was it? This one, 1,811 downloads of The Love Eclipse. So you can see we're getting lots of people joining us. And here are our latest arrivals. As you can see, we're getting some downloads from them, but hey, they're just brand new books that we've put out. We put out about 10 new books every day. And The Well at the World's End, I have to get this one, 2,100 downloads. And this was the person who inspired Tolkien and C.S. Lewis and Lord Dunsey, Edison, Pratt. These are all authors. I couldn't believe it when I saw this just before we came on the air, because these are all authors that I read in my youth and I loved. Lord Dunsey doesn't get near the credit that the other authors do, and his books were absolutely amazing. So this is free for everybody. You can join. You get 5 books free a month. Most people, they don't read one book a year, so it should be enough. And you're supporting new authors. The whole point of this is that if you want to be an author today, you have to have this huge following, or none of the publishers are willing to take a risk on you. But publishing a book has never been easier. You just need to have the audience. So that's what we're all about. And hopefully you'll enjoy the books, tell your friends, and support these hardworking authors, because they really do need your support. And so with that, today's guest is he's an author, and he's an amazing sales trainer. So I'm not going to wait any longer. I'm going to bring him on now, and we'll get started. So welcome to the show, Tom Bloomer. How are you doing today?
Scott, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. And, I'll be honest, though, I can't wait till we finished, because you just got me excited to go look through some books. So I enjoy doing that. So that was a great opening.
Thank you. Books are so fun, right? And it's a lost art, because we have Netflix and we have movies and we have internet and we have all these things. But I'm traveling, as you'd asked me before we came on the air. I'm in Costa Rica, and I'm not planning to come home anytime soon. So this is one of my favorite things. But I have to tell you, it does not replace that paper book. I wish I could be holding all my books like this, but I would need 3 more suitcases to carry them all in. So
it's funny. I went to ebooks and started doing that several years ago, and I still read a lot that way. But boy, you give me a chance to hold on to a book, that's still my preferred way. So
it makes so much difference, just feeling that paper, right? Mm-hmm. And as we're talking, you're bringing back memories of me, sitting in different places when I was a teenager in my parents' house, and I'd have this paperback book. Almost all of my books were paperback books in those days. They'd be $2 or 95 cents or something, and thick. Reading through them, it was great memories. And I think we need to help the next generation, the coming generations, to have that experience too, because there's something about sitting by a river under a tree on a summer day, and Dad's cooking burgers and you're reading a book and kids are throwing a ball around. It's a nice life.
Life is too hectic right now. We need those opportunities to sit down, relax, and that's a great way to do it.
It really, really is. So you've written a really good book, Teach Me Sales, and the 21-day roadmap to sales success. What made you decide to write the book, Tom?
I got fired.
Okay. Well, that's another thing we have in common. Great.
There we go. So, I was with the same company for 28 years. I started in sales, knocking on doors, which we talk about in the book a lot. You're busy, right? So I'm working every day. I've dreamt of writing a book for a long time. It's something I always wanted to do. I kept all my notes. Whenever I would do meetings, whenever I would be at conferences and speaking, I kept all my notes. I still had some old, what were those machines with the light, and you'd put the thing in there and it would display up on the screen. I can't think of the name, but the old school way of doing presentations. I still had some of those.
Like the clear plastic that you would put on it?
Yes.
I don't know what they're called either, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, but I still had some right at this point. So I saved all this in the hope, and every couple of years, we'd make a New Year's resolution. I'd say, this is the year I'm finally going to write that sales book that I've been dreaming about. And I just never got to it. I'd sit there, I'd think about it. It got to the point where I really didn't think I had it in me, that I would be able to do it. And then at the beginning of the pandemic, I found out the company I'd been with for 28 years was going to eliminate my position. They gave me a few weeks before that happened, which was really great because it gave me an opportunity to decide, what I want to do. And the first thing I decided to do is I'm going to see if I can write this book, and I want to sit down and do it. And boy, I never realized how difficult it was going to be, but also how enjoyable. And the more I got into it, the more excited I got about it. But then I knew nothing about publishing. As you said in your opening, it's a lot easier probably than it's ever been. But if you know nothing about it, there's so much you have to find out. So that was also a huge learning thing for me as I went through it.
Cool. So this is a new book. Like, you've just gone through this experience.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I just started writing it, I guess, late June, early July of last year.
Wow.
I sent it off to the publisher. I was so excited, so proud in early December when I sent it. And never having done this, I figured, okay, I'm done, right? This is all set. And thankfully, I made a very wise decision with the publisher that I chose. And the editing process, Scott, they took a sales guy that talks sales. I'm not an English major. I have just a certain way of speaking that's not necessarily the best for writing. And they took all of my sales stuff and they made it an enjoyable read. So, but that took a couple months working through and trying to build that part. So, but there's been a lot that's gone into it, but I'm excited about the finished product.
So, Tom, what was your process writing the book? I mean, I'm pretty sure that you just got in front of the computer, started tapping away, and chapter 1, 2, 3 all flowed effortlessly over the coming months.
Oh, absolutely. It was done in an afternoon, Scott. It was the easiest thing. What took me a year was the way I type. I never was a real strong typist. But, the first thing I did, I mentioned I had all these old notes. All these meeting notes and things that I'd covered. So the first thing I did is I sat down and I started to kind of put them together. The different topics. The book is a 21-day roadmap because there's 21 days of habits, things that I try to cover. So what I did is I said, all right, let me find all the different things that I think are going to be important to someone in sales. The 21-day was an important thing for me because I've read a lot about that's how long it really takes to build a new habit or to break an old habit. So I was looking at that 21-day, and then I sat down and I said, all right, here's what I want to talk about. As an example, change management. So that's going to be one of the things I really want to talk about. What are some of the stories that I can share? Because I've been doing this for 30 years, so I have a lot of stories to choose from, good and bad, because I was a very poor salesman when I started, so I've got a lot of those stories. And I said, you know what? I don't want a sales book that is going to be stressful, and it's not going to be enjoyable. To me,
Right.
sales can be stressful enough. I wanted people to be comfortable lying under that tree while the barbecue's on, as you said, and say, you know what, it's a business book, but it's also enjoyable. So I tried to decide for each of the habits I wanted to cover, do I have a good story that I can share? I also wanted to look at some of the motivational quotes over the years that were important to me. One of my core beliefs is that salesmanship has not changed. Sales has been here since the dawn of time. Life is sales. My wife and I say that all the time. It doesn't matter what you're selling or how you're going through life. You need to understand a certain amount of salesmanship. So I sat down and I said, okay, what are those core things I want to cover? What are the good stories important to me when I first got started? And I feel those quotes, some of them were made by people in the 40s and 50s,
Yeah.
and they still helped me sell in the 90s, and they're still good today. How we communicate has changed. What you're doing right now to introduce people to new books, to help authors, that wasn't there 25 years ago.
That's right.
But the way that you do it, the techniques, what you're trying to do was there. It's just how we communicate it that's changed. So I tried to cover that as well as we went through the 21 days.
Right. The principles and the foundation is the same, and we have newer or different additional ways that we can use those, right? Because Zoom in the last year has just been amazing in terms of how that's changed how we've communicated. But having said that, that's only because everyone is using Zoom. If they weren't using, proven sales processes and techniques, they'd be getting no sales, right? They're not getting the sales because of Zoom. They're able to present what they want to present and get the sales because Zoom allows. It's like the telephone, right? We had the telegraph. Well, can you imagine trying to sell someone tap, dash, whatever it was, I forget now.
Big headline, little dash.
Yeah, that's right. Not going to work. But you had the telephone, and all of a sudden, instead of knocking on a door, you could phone 10 people in the time you could knock on 10 doors, right? Oops. Mm-hmm. And so the process with which we communicate has changed, but the actual I don't want to put it mechanics because that makes sales sound like it's really mechanical, but the principles of sales are the same.
Yeah, as you said, the fundamentals.
Yeah,
the fundamentals and caring about people, wanting to build a relationship. Those things haven't changed. So that curiosity, a good salesperson needs to be curious and ask a lot of questions to build those relationships. That's still there. They're maybe able to access different ways now to satisfy that curiosity, but they still have to be very curious.
Right. So can you share a little bit about how you got the publisher, like what you're able to do in order to get the publisher to publish it, put it into the bookstores and that sort of thing?
Well, I started and I did a Google search, right? That's what we do now. And I said, how do you publish a book? And the first thing I started looking at was traditional publishing. And because I didn't even know about self-publishing. I had no understanding for what that process would be. So I was looking at traditional publishing, and I started to read, okay, here's what I have to do. So I need to get the first 5 chapters done. I need to have my outline. I need to have a synopsis of each of the chapters. So I started to build those things. While I was working on that, building that, hoping to build a book that I could send off to a publisher. And as I was learning, then wait 1, 2, 3 years to see if they're ever even going to do anything with it, which I learned later they probably never would have done anything with it. While I'm doing that, I was spending a lot of time in LinkedIn. LinkedIn was something that I did not spend a lot of time on when I was working, but as I was building a sales training business, as I was doing more coaching and consulting, LinkedIn became an activity I spent time on every day. So as I was building my connections and networking, I started to network with some people who were in the self-publishing industry. So I was able to reach out and talk to a number of people. So I realized, okay, that was the direction I wanted to go for what I wanted to do with the book, the way I wanted to get it out to people to help coach and to market it. Self-publishing was going to be the answer for me. Then the question was, how do I choose the right publisher? So I started reaching out to people that had written books that were in my circle. And I asked them, what did they learn? What were the good experiences, the bad experiences? I went through, I got a couple referrals, and then I started to reach out and send some messages to find out who I could talk to. And am I allowed to say who I chose, Scott?
Absolutely. Yes, for sure.
All right. So I decided to go with Emerald Lake Publishing with Tara Alameda and Mark Gerber. From the first time I did a Zoom call with them, I said, let's talk. I knew that was the group I wanted to work with. Wonderful. They walked me through. They understood that I had no idea what I was doing. They not only did they simplify it for me, but I could see the expertise. I knew that I was going to be in good hands with what they did. And they asked me, they said, we need to see what you have. So I sent off those 5 chapters. I sent off all the stuff I'd prepare. And then I anxiously waited to find out, would they take me on, as a client? And then that took a couple weeks. And once they said they were, willing to work with me, I was excited. And then I went from there to finish. I took about another 3.5 months then to finish the remaining chapters. And like I said, in December, I thought I was done and home free. And then they started sending me all the additional homework. And, here's what we need to do, Tom, to turn your dream into a worthwhile book. So. Oh,
nice. Nice. Yeah, if you didn't tell us, I was going to ask you who the publisher was. And I think you bring up a really good point in that you're an expert on sales. That has nothing to do with book publishing, and probably it's not in your best interest to become an expert in book publishing in order to get your book on sales out there, because if you were interested in that, you would already know everything about book publishing, and that's not the case, right? So I think, focus on what you do best. This is for the world, I think this, and let the other experts do what they do best and become a team. And then you're going to be doing things a lot faster and a lot better than if you try to figure it all out yourself.
Absolutely. That's one of the important, and it's interesting that you bring it up, Scott, because it's also so important in sales. And it's one of the things we talk about throughout the book in a couple instances is you need to be willing to learn, every day. If I'm out, no matter what I'm selling, I need to get feedback on how I'm doing. I need to learn, am I engaging with that prospective client correctly? Am I moving along in a good direction? If we're not willing to be open to learning, if we think we know everything and this is the way it's going to be, it's never going to work in sales. And it surely would not have worked with me trying to publish a book. I had to select someone who I really felt confident knew what they were doing. And then I had to trust them. There were a number of calls where we would go through and we'd have discussions, and I'd get off a call and I'd be like, I'm not really sure. I don't know if I would have done it that way, but I trusted them. This is what they know. And at the end of the day, boy, I sure am glad I listened to them.
Cool. So one of the topics that you love to talk about is growth and change. And I want to get your take on the growth and change that has occurred in the last 18 months, because the world is so much different now than it was at the beginning of the 2020s. And so I'd just like to know your opinion or your thoughts and how that applies to people who are in the sales profession.
Okay. I'll start with a quote. I mentioned earlier, I love some good quotes. I'm pretty sure it was Karen Kaiser Clark. And she said, life is change. Growth is optional. Choose wisely. And that always resonated with me because, whatever's going on in life, personal, work, there's going to be change. And it's very easy for us to get upset, for us to resist it, for us to fight it. Nobody really wants change. but we have to adapt to it. We have to kind of expect it. No matter what's going on today, let's look at it. Now, the pandemic is a little difficult because there were a lot of people that have been extremely very negatively impacted by it. So it's one of those things where we've lost a lot of lives. A lot of business owners have been harmed. This has been a very trying experience for so many people. But when you go through it, there's also been some good things that have come out of it. Right now, I probably would have never had an opportunity to share with you as we are right now. When my position was eliminated after 28 years, I had joined the company when they were relatively new as a startup. They were acquired a few times. I could have sat there and said, you know what, it's not fair. Why me? Why did they let me go? I could have gone through that. That wasn't going to change things. Okay, that wasn't going to help me or help me grow or do anything I wanted to do. I'm a little bit up there in age. My podcast is called Okay Boomer, Teach Me Sales. I'm a baby boomer, so I'm one of the youngest baby boomers. I'm right on that cutoff. But at my age, I had to decide, what do I want to do now? I'm not ready to retire. I couldn't afford to retire even if I thought I was ready. So I had to find a way to go out and to do something and to adapt. And I've met so many people. I mentioned LinkedIn. I've spent so much time with people over the last year that were adapting. Zoom. I never heard of Zoom before. My wife was joking with me the other day. Now it's used as an adverb. It's a noun. Just, I'm going on a Zoom. I have to Zoom. I did a Zoom.
Right.
And it's just commonplace. I've been networking with people in different countries. I'm talking to people in different time zones. We're all connecting and doing things that we may not have done if we didn't go through that. The people that sat back and said, hey, this is going to be over quick. I don't even think it's real or whatever it is. They weren't adapting to it. The people that said, hey, let me figure something out. And you know what, Scott, the younger generation, they're already adapting differently. I don't know that we're going to go back to a work environment like we had 2 or 3 years ago, because people are suddenly realizing, you know what? I could do a lot while I'm home. I could work in Costa Rica. I can still be productive and do things. And, there's some other things more important to me than sitting in a building somewhere for 11 hours a day with no window. So,
and don't forget the 2-hour commute.
Absolutely. Yep. Nobody wants to do that. Although it's a great way to listen to podcasts, but other than that, it's not something we want to do.
And we always have to deal with fear. And in last year, when they closed the border in Colombia, I'm in Colombia, and I'm happy because I can only have my visa and an extension of visa is 6 months out of a calendar year. And I ended up being 9 or 10 months there. And if there had to be stuck somewhere, that would be a great place. But in those 9 or 10 months, I got very comfortable with where I was, and I could feel roots were going down in the city. And then when it was time to leave, I had this what's going to be like getting on a plane, and what's going to be like getting back to my home country? I had all this fear came up. And then there was also the fear that, what if there's never any travel again? And I just said, Scott, in the whole history of humanity, there's never been a time when people weren't moving around and migrating and everything else. That's not going to stop. But it was interesting, all of these fears that would come up. And if you succumb to the fear, then you're just going to huddle in a corner in a fetal position, or you can just say, hey, thank you very much for sharing. What are my goals? What do I want to do? And take your steps.
We got to stay in motion, right? Because that's what that fear does. It just kind of paralyzes us. We just have to move through, and we're going to find, as you said, it's going to work out. We just got to keep going.
So, Tom, this has been great. I really enjoyed having you on the show. We're getting towards the end. Make sure, by the way, that you hit subscribe, hit the bell, always be notified, hit the like buttons and the love buttons and everything else. Appreciate those of you that have. It's a free way to put goodwill out there. But before we do anything else, I would really like you to talk about your podcast, because we talk a lot about free ebooks on the show, but we also really support podcasts because that's a way for people like yourself to share your knowledge with the world, and I think it's really important.
I love it, and you know, Scott, I never thought that I'd be doing a podcast. As I was looking for ways to reach an audience, I wanted to reach people that I could coach in sales. I was looking for some of those new ways. How can I reach people that don't know anything about me? So to me, I said, all right, I want to communicate with them. I do a lot of posting in LinkedIn. And I said, I want to put a sales podcast. And the goal, and you know, I'd love to have a 1 million downloads and things like that every week, but that's not going to happen. I understand that. But what I want is just every week, we try to put out some good sales content. We try to have fun with it. Hopefully that's the people who know the saying, okay, boomer, that should give them an idea that this is going to be a fun show. Okay. It's not something where you sit down and just take a lot of notes. We're going to have good, lively discussion. We're going to talk sales. We do a lot of interviews with people in different parts of the sales world. I wanted them to sit there and have some fun, listen to it. Unfortunately, if they're on the commute or through the pandemic, they're walking their dog and they want to think and get a little bit stronger in sales. Listen to it, enjoy it, take a couple takeaways out of it. And if I impact 3 or 4 people and they walk away with something new they want to put in place, or just feeling better about what they're doing in sales, I think it's going to help their week. And to me, sales is really about a mindset and having that inspiration. So that's the goal of that show, is to kind of inspire people a little bit every week and help people have fun. It sounds like I'm inspiring somebody already, Scott.
You are. The dogs here are all excited. So I want to, before we leave, I have to ask you, what is the key to sales in your opinion?
The key to sales, I would say, is finding a way to be persistent, because a lot of the people we talk to, we may have a solution, but they may not be ready for it today. You know, there's a lot of things going on in people's lives. I could walk in with a perfect solution. It's just not the right timing. So I need to basically find a way to stay motivated myself so that I can stay persistent and genuinely want to help that business or that person. So I keep following up. I look for ways to engage with them. I look for ways to ask questions, learn about their business. And nowadays it's so beautiful. I can follow people and businesses in all kinds of social media, looking for those opportunities where I say, you know what? I might be able to help them with this. I see they're working on this. I may have a solution. Let me try to stay engaged with them and get in front of them. So creatively finding the way to stay persistent, to me, is going to be one of the keys. Oh, Scott, I can't hear you.
Terrific answer, Tom. I was muting myself to keep the dogs quiet, and they're wonderful right now. So the show is free-ebooks.net, was sponsored by free-ebooks.net, and I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you, Tom, do you have a free ebook?
I do. I'm going to send you the link. You may already have. There it is. Yep. For the next 30 days, we can offer the book for free, that particular version. So I hope they enjoy it.
Awesome. So head over to emeraldlakebooks.com/BF Bloomer, and you'll be able to get the book and learn about sales. And I know from our talk today that it's an amazing book. It's full of wisdom, full of really good things that people should be doing. And I know I'm going to get a copy for sure.
Can I put my sales hat back on for 1 minute, Scott?
You betcha.
All right. If they download the book, if they enjoy it, I would love for them to leave a review on Amazon, Goodreads, ebook, any of their favorite sites. The more reviews, the more people see it, the more people that we can help with it. So that would be much appreciated.
For sure. Yeah. Always leave a review, folks, when you read a book, whether you get it on Amazon or your Goodreads or wherever it is, because the authors really appreciate it. We work hard to create the content, And if you got anything out of the book, take a few minutes to leave that review. And so, Tom, thank you so much for being on the show. Really appreciate you. Really appreciate the work that you're doing. Is there any last words, some piece of advice for non-baby boomers coming up that you would like to share?
Enjoy sales. Sales can be a phenomenal career. I was just reading an article in the Wall Street Journal that there are so many sales openings right now, but so few young people want to apply for them. Sales has gotten a bad rap through the years, and they're not looking at some great opportunities. Whatever their skill set, whatever a young person is really good at, you can take that skill set, bring it into a sales environment, and you can have a phenomenal career. If you come into sales for the right reasons and you do it the right way, it's going to be a very rewarding career. So I would say have at it.
Wonderful. That's great advice. There's so much opportunity in the world, and it just makes me feel so sad when I'm around people that, I don't know what to do, and I don't have enough money. I can't feed myself. And I just wonder, they must live in a different world than me, because I see opportunity around every corner.
Yeah, it's there if we're looking.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us, Tom. Really appreciate you a lot. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Appreciate the likes, the hearts, the subscribes. That's been awesome. And we'll see you next time. Bye for now.